What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It is 2022. Happy New Year. This is the very first tutorial of 2022. I'm going to be teaching you how to create a little video card that opens a video in a modal or a lightbox. This allows you to display videos on a website where you don't actually have to embed the video and have the ugly YouTube player with whatever random kind of a screenshot they used as the thumbnail. You get to create your own video cover image, your own video play button. You can even make the video play button pulsate, like I'm going to show you in just a second. And then when they click on the play button, a lightbox or a modal window comes up, and that's where the video gets to play. This is really good for a lot of different reasons. It's not a super advanced tutorial, so even beginners are going to be able to follow along here. But what I decided to do is to sprinkle a ton of golden nuggets and more advanced stuff into this tutorial so that everybody gets a lot of stuff out of it. This is going to be one of those tutorials where you just walk away with like 2, 3, 4 new skills that you did not have before. So definitely watch all the way to the end. Now, before we dive in, I want to take a minute to just talk about who this channel is for. Since it's a new year, we're going to be getting a lot of new people. This channel is for two sets of people. One is WordPress developers who use like Oxygen and Bricks. Now, I haven't done any Bricks tutorials yet, but maybe that's a little hint of what's to come. But if you use Oxygen, if you use WordPress and you develop websites, this is absolutely the channel for you. You're going to get to learn a lot of really cool stuff. And then if you are a freelancer or you are an agency and you are interested in growing your business, raising your prices, becoming more profitable, streamlining things, creating systems, hiring new team members and buying your time back and living just a better life in general and building wealth from this kind of agency, digital business lifestyle, this is also the channel for you. So if you are in either of those two groups, the first thing you need to do before we go any further, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, hit the little notification bell, choose all, get all notifications. You got to be all in on this channel, okay? And then drop a comment below and just say hi or whatever. All right, so let me show you what we are going to build. This is, I almost forgot. So on Monday, the Georgia Bulldogs, for the first time since 1980, won the national championship, college football national championship, beat the Alabama Crimson Tide, who they had lost to 7 times in a row. That is absolutely painful to say, but it was fantastic. So what I decided to do is let's just take a moment. I thought it would be a great idea if we use that as the theme for our little project here. And for the Alabama fans specifically, I thought it would just be amazing if we made the video that pops up be the interception that won the game for Georgia. I think we would all be happy about that, right? Sorry, I have to poke my fun. All right, but anyway, look, this is what we're gonna build. So, and I'm gonna show you all the styling stuff, right? So if you don't know how to make things overlap with CSS Grid, yes, I'm gonna show you how this overlapping action happened with Grid. And Grid, if you don't know, is really, really powerful for making content overlap, really, really easy to make content overlap once you understand kind of the structure and what's going on. Maybe you don't know how to put a little red strip inside of a box. Maybe you don't know how to make this little 3-part little box thing that's going on here. Maybe you don't know how to make a pulsing play icon. Maybe when they hit play, oh gosh, what's this?
Let's take a second and watch. Bryce Young's career.
Let's just see the interception.
You need 10. Play clock at 4.
This was just fantastic.
From the pocket. Launching downfield. Underthrown and intercepted. Keely Ringo has an escort down the sidelines.
That's a long time.
All the way to the end zone. And Georgia is going to conquer the Crimson Tide.
All right, before I start tearing up, let's go. Let's move on. So all of this stuff is what we're going to build, okay? So what we're going to do, I'm going to start with a blank slate. I'm going to walk you through all of this. We're going to make it as easy as absolutely possible so that you guys can build, super useful stuff like this. All right, so I'm going to add a section and I'm going to add a background image. I already have the image on my computer. All right, we are going to go left 50% and top 50% just to make sure that we can see the exact center of that image. And then what I'm going to do is I need to make this whole section bigger. If you see here, it takes up the entire screen. So normally what you would want to do, but you can't do this in Oxygen, which is a bug. So Elijah, if you're watching, I need you to fix this ASAP. Now, I fixed it with automatic.css. So if you have automatic.css, I'm going to show you in just a second how this is fixed. But what you would want to do is go to minimum height and set to 100 VH. And it appears that it works. The problem is it doesn't. If you see this little purple boundary right here, this is the boundary of the inner content div that is inside of sections by default in Oxygen. And if I add something like a button, you see the button up there. If this was truly done properly, I would be able to go to Layout, Flex, Column, and set the justification of content to center. And that button should go down here somewhere. But it doesn't, because the section got taller, but the inner content div did not get bigger with it. So my content is still trapped up here, and there's no way to move that content down into the center. That is absolutely a bug. So what we want to do, here's another bug. If you take off flex, it's staying flex. You actually have to hit the reset button here. And this is the latest version of Oxygen. So there's two little bugs right there that I've noticed. And it's not the beta, by the way. It's the latest full public release of Oxygen. So in automatic.css, we created this class, which is height full. And notice that that fixes our inner content div. And that happens whether I've already done the height on here or not. So if I go to size and spacing, take off that 100 VH height. So we're kind of back to where we started. I just want to make sure I didn't change anything else. I thought I clicked a button on accident a second ago. Yeah, I did. Layout block. Like, okay, random. All right, so I'm just going to reset size and spacing. All right, and then we're just going to do height full. And everything works just right off the bat because automatic.css is cool. Okay, next we're going to, I can now go back to the div. Now you can do a lot of this stuff in automatic CSS, but I just want to use vanilla Oxygen as much as possible. We're going to go layout, flex, column, and justify center. And now you see we can get things to where we want them to be in the center. Now I don't want a button to be there, but I was just showing you. Okay, what's next? We need to darken the background, obviously. Now, if you notice, it's much darker around the outsides and much lighter on the inside. So it has sort of a glow that kind of closes your eye into the actual content in the center. So the way that we're going to do that is with a background gradient. And I'm just going to grab, we'll just do black here and black here. And then I want to take this one, or just probably this one, the top one, and bring it down to like 80% or 75. Let's try 75 first, and then I'll choose radial, and it's going to put that right in the center for us. So the outsides are darkened, the inside is still darkened, but not quite as much. We have that background kind of peeking through. I'm going to hit save, and then what I'm going to do is add a div. So what we need is our container for all of this content right here. And that container is actually going to be a grid, and that grid is what is going to create this overlap effect here. So I'm going to choose grid from the Oxygen builder. I'm going to choose 8 columns. Now this is going to make more sense in just a minute. And right off the bat, you see yet another thing that I don't think Oxygen considers this to be a bug, but I consider it to be a bug. My grid goes completely off the screen and breaks my layout. And the reason is this minimum width of each cell, because I chose 8 and it by default, for no reason, it doesn't need to do this, sets a minimum width of 200 pixels. That's a 1600 pixel grid. And you can see it flies off the screen. This minimum width should be 0. And then we should get something like this. And then what I can do is come down here and I can set my width to 100%. And now it just takes up the whole inner content, right? But what I also want to do is go to max width on this and set it to something like 90 or even 100, which is 1000 pixels. 100 rem is 1000 pixels in my system. And then I want to margin left auto, margin right auto, because that will center that div back into the horizontal center of this section. All right, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about grid and making some items overlap. So the first thing I need is 2 cells. These are the cells that are going to hold my content. Now you see they're very, very small. They look much smaller than what's going on here. So the reason we did 8 columns is because it gives us more control over the overlapping and how much these columns span and all of that. Now, I will say this. If you watch my other video on CSS Grid in Oxygen, you remember that you can grab a child div and you can change its span to make it bigger. And you might think that that's what we're supposed to do with overlaps, but overlaps will not work when you do it that way because they need a little bit extra that's not baked into Oxygen. So we're going to have to go into the div and into custom CSS, but we're not going to have to write a lot of CSS, okay? I'm going to walk you through this. So I'm going to do, and you don't put a period because we're not making classes. So I do grid column. Okay, so grid column, and then I'm going to do 1 over a number. And the number that I'm using here is where I want the span of this cell or this column to end. Remember, I have 8 columns to work with. So I'm going to choose 5. And you can see immediately that it jumps to being 5 columns. Now what I'm going to do is go to my other grid. Now, if this one ended on 5, and I do want to do just a little inside tutorial here on CSS grid, excuse me. If you put it at 5, it's actually 4 columns because you're telling it to span through 4 all the way to 5. So if you go all the way to 5, where 5 starts, you've spanned 4 columns. Does that make sense? So if I stopped at 5, if I start the other one at 4, they should overlap, right? Because there's a 1 column gap in there, or a 1 column overlap. So I'm going to go to custom CSS here and do grid column. And then we're going to start at 4 and we're going to go to -1. -1 is the end. It's however many are left, take up all of those. So if I end up changing the column count on the grid, none of this will break, all right? Unless I go under 4 columns. So grid 4, starting at 4, going all the way to the end, creates an overlap. But as you see, they're clearly not overlapping because what did I say a minute ago? I said CSS grid tries its best to not overlap. So we're going to choose this first div here, and we're going to do the same thing to both of them, and that's this. We're going to go grid row start 1. So I'm telling it to start this on the first row. I'm going to now copy this, and I'm going to go to this cell, and I'm going to tell it to start on the first row. If they both have to start on the first row, and they're like they are now, with their overlap, they'll actually overlap. So I'm going to go to custom CSS and paste. Now you might think, Kevin, why didn't you just do that with the second one? The first one was already on row 1, and it's the first one by default. Won't it just be on row 1? Unfortunately not, because like I said, grid really tries its best to not overlap content. This is the first div. If I take off this grid row start, it pops it to the second column, or the second row, even though it's first in order, okay? So you have to have grid row start on both of them at the same time. And now you see that we have our overlap. All right, so what I'm going to do here is add our background. And what you would want to do, obviously, is use classes for all of these things, either utility classes or even custom classes. I'm doing this all at the ID level, but you would definitely want to use custom classes if you planned on reusing this element ever again. In fact, you know what? We should do this the right way. I've always said that about my tutorials is we should just do them the right way. So I'm just going to clear out those last 2 things I did. And actually, we'll clear out the grid as well. Stay with me because it's going to take 5 seconds to build this back. So what we're going to do is called featured video section. Okay, so featured video section. And then I'm going to go featured video section double underscore because we use BIM. And we'll do content wrapper. And then featured video section double underscore image. No, this is the video wrapper. Perfect. And then we're going to make this a grid, 8 columns, 0 on the minimum width, drop down to 100% on the width. Why don't I zoom back out here for a second? Make this a lot easier. And then we're going to grab this one, which is the featured video content. We're going to go to custom CSS grid column, and we're going to do 1 over 5. And we're going to do grid row start 1, copy those, come over here, go to custom CSS. This is going to start at 4. It's going to go to -1, and we're back to where we were. And now I have custom classes that I can style. So I'm just going to do white on this. And on this, we're going to also do white, but it doesn't really matter because I'm actually not going to put any spacing in there. Let's just put our image. Let's put an image in there. So I'm going to browse for our image. It's going to be this one, the same image we used as the background actually. And then what I want you to see on this is this white box needs to get into the center of this design. So the way that we do that is with this vertical item alignment down to the center. And we need to make sure it's a good idea, even though this comes first, it's a good idea to lay out and z-index 1 this to make sure it stays on top at all times. And then we can start loading stuff into it like a little heading and some text. So we're going to do a heading, which is going to be an H3. We're going to do text right there. And then this box, I actually am going to use padding. And because we have access to it, I'm just going to use automatic CSS. So we're going to use a little variable from automatic.css. I'm going to grab this content, which I can't seem to do. Okay. So Keely Ringo picks off Alabama's Bryce Young for the game-winning interception. Okay, that doesn't need to be capitalized. All right, 2022 National Championship winning play. Bam. Okay, and then I'm going to make margin top on this be, well, actually, if we wanted to do this properly, so we would do featured video section heading, featured video section text, and then on the top of that text, we would do margin var space S, okay? Something like that. All right, great. Now we've got, if we just save and look at this, we're making really good progress, right? So we've got our overlapping card. This card seems to be a little bit bigger. So one thing we can do is on the top and the bottom. I don't know why I just did that. We'll do XL on the top and XL on the bottom and hit save. Well, we'll just do XL all around, I guess. Set that to none so it doesn't break. All right, we'll do XL all around and save. And now see, there we go. That looks pretty good. All right, and then what we can do, what's cool about this, because it's not a video embed, you can very easily, let's do featured video section __ video. Actually, this is not a video. Sorry, let's leave that for later. Featured video section cover image, and we can change the height here. So you can choose like whatever you want. Let's do 40 rem, so that's 400 pixels. And then whenever you change the height of an image like this, what I would like you to do, or you should really do this if you just want it to look good, object fit cover. Let me zoom in on that so y'all can see. Object fit cover makes that behave like a background image, so it won't stretch or warp the image. All right, that's very standard stuff. I do that all the time. Let's hit save and see how we're looking. Perfect. Now notice that I put this image inside of a div, which we called the video section video wrapper. So that section I'm going to set as layout relative because I'm getting ready to do some absolute positioning. We need to get our play icon into this little container here that we've built. So by putting this to position relative, it'll contain my icon, which is going to be position absolute. So I'm going to add my image, browse, choose my icon, which is this, nope, this one, select image. And now we need to do featured video section play icon. And then I'm going to make the width, let's say 6, maybe 8. Let's do 8. And then I'm going to go to layout and I'm going to do absolute. And then this is a little tricky. So pay close attention here. You would think that going left 50% and top 50% would do the trick. It actually doesn't. It's off. Now there's a lot of ways to position absolutely positioned elements, centered, like to center them. But this is the technique that I use more often than not because it's the first one I learned and it's just stuck with me. So once you do left 50%, top 50%, you're going to go to effects and you're going to go to transform, add transform, and you're going to translate it. And if you translate it on X and Y, minus 50% back to where it was, it'll actually go into the center. Okay. So that gives us our play icon. Now we're going to go into here and go to custom CSS because remember, this needs to be clickable, but we're not going to make it a link. It doesn't have to be a link to open a modal window. So all we have to do is say cursor. Let me zoom in again. cursor pointer, and that's going to give us the little hand icon when people hover over. It doesn't even have to be on the hover. It's just, you just make it cursor pointer and it works. So let's go to reload here. So there's our, see the hand? So we have our play icon. We have our cover image. We're getting there. We're getting really close, but I got to do some more things. We got to make it pulse. We got to have black and red because that's the color scheme. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is probably what we need to do. I need to grab that image and wrap it with a div. And I'll maybe explain why I'm doing this later. I just know I need to do it because of how the pulsating works. When we get there, I'll explain it to you. So on that div, what we can call this is featured video section. And this is icon, a play, icon, wrapper. And then I'm going to go to background, black, and 1, 2, 3. I don't know why it's not turning black. Okay. Oh, you know what? I got it. Okay. So we actually don't want this to be absolute, and we want this to be absolute. So layout absolute. This is going to go top 50%, right, left 50%. This is also going to get transformed, effects, transform, translate, and -50 and -50. And then we just have to get that image back in there. So if we go to layout, let's just clear all the layout action there. Okay. And what did I do here? Cursor pointer. Oh, effects, transform. There we go. Got to get rid of the translate on that. Okay. Sorry. So now we're where we needed to be. So this div is just a square, which is not good. So we need to go to borders and go to radius of 50%. Now the black is back there. And let me see if the black actually sticks out. It does. So what that tells me is we need a little padding. If you put padding inside, it's going to make the icon shrink a little bit, and you'll see the black around the edge. So we're just going to do like ems, like 0.5 ems of padding. And there you go. So now we have that. Now that icon is looking a little bit big. And just for this sake, I'm going to make the z-index of 2 to make sure it's always on top. And I'm just going to say that this icon should probably be more like 6 rem. Okay, that's much better. Now what we have to do is create the red around it. You could use border on that. That might be the easiest way to do that. So I'm going to take the div and we're going to do border and we're going to do solid 5 pixels. And the color is going to be, do I not have the Georgia red color in there? All right, let's go to color picker. Let's grab this red right here and let's pop it in. Okay, so now I have my red around the icon. Let's go ahead and refresh. Bam, look at that. Now it's not pulsating, which is kind of a problem, right? So we're going to go to a site called Animista. And this is just a lot of free, really cool little animations that are very easy to pop in. So what I'm going to do is go to attention and I'm going to go to pulsate. And there's that pulsating kind of action that I want. I'm going to click the code box over here. I'm going to copy all of the keyframes. You don't really need to know how to do any of this stuff. It's literally just copy paste. So I go to style sheets. Add a style sheet. This is going to be called animations. And then I'm going to paste those keyframes in there. And you're going to see it says animation heartbeat right there. Then I'm going to go back to Animista. And you see I can see the heartbeat code right here. I don't need all of it. I just need what's in there. But unfortunately, it's making me select all of it. I'm going to go to my icon now. Okay, notice in the oxygen builder, sometimes that goes away when you have absolutely positioned things over other things and a lot going on. But if you can't find it, you can always find it in your structure panel. I'm going to go to on my class to custom CSS, paste it, but I remove the heartbeat. And then you can just select all of this. Shift tab will back that stuff up to be in alignment. And then I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to go in and boom. And now I have a pulsating little play icon, which is really, really cool. Now you can make the play icon pulsate, or you can make the entire div pulsate. I did it one way in this one, and I did it a different way in this one, but it's literally just what you paste that code on, okay? So now we have a pulsating play icon that's in the middle of our custom cover image that is clickable, but obviously doesn't do anything because we haven't created a modal yet and we haven't embedded our video. That's all coming next. One thing we need to do is this little box action right here. So I'm going to select our image, or you could do the div, the wrapper. Let's do the wrapper. I think that's probably the best way to do it. So on my class here, I'm going to go to, now, normally I did this with box shadow, but the problem is with box shadow in, I'll show you. You can only do one. You can only do one box shadow. I need 2 box shadows. And so that means oxygen's not going to get the job done for me. So what I'm going to do is zoom in so y'all can see, and we're going to do box shadow. And then I'm going to do 1 rim. Let's start there. 1 rim. This is the X and Y offset. Then I'm going to do 0 blur and 0 whatever the other thing is called. And then I'm going to make that black. And if we save and go look at the front end, you see that we have a black outline. Kind of hard to see. What I'm also going to do now is take that semicolon away and replace it with a comma. And this is how you do multi-layered box shadows. So now I'm going to do 2 rim and 2 rim, which is 1 rim greater than the other box shadow that we had, 0, 0. And then I need my little color here, which I wish was saved in oxygen, but it's not. Bam. Wait, actually, hold on. I'm doing this wrong. It's a white box, right? It's white and then red, not black and then red. So we're going to do white and then red. So I just changed the color of that first box shadow. Here's the second one is red. Hit save. Look how easy this is, guys, right? Super, super, super easy. So I've got that. Next thing we need to do is that little red box inside of here. That's actually a little bit tougher. So what we're going to do there is use an absolutely positioned blank box with a border on it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So here's my class right here. And we're going to use a pseudo element for this. So knowing that I'm going to absolutely position something, the first thing I always do is go to the parent layout relative, because I want it contained inside of that parent element. So now I'm going to go to before. You could really use before or after. Let's do after, just to kind of show you can do either one. And I'm going to go to border, and we're going to make this 1 pixel solid, and then my little red color here, just like that. And you're not going to see anything because there's nothing there yet. Well, actually you do. You see a little dot. Look at that. There's a little tiny dot of where this is going to be. I'm going to go to layout and absolute, and then you're going to see that dot move. It just moved to right there. And then this top, left, right, bottom positioning is all that we need to make the magic happen. If you do 0, it will take up and you do 0 on all sides, it'll grow to be the exact size of its parent container. Watch. And it looks like we have a red border. If I want it to be on the inside, I just offset it. So if I offset it by like 1 rim on every side, it will come into the middle or inside the box by 1 rim. And then I hit save and I'm done. So I have a nice little red box accent inside of my other box. So let's take a look at what we got going on. Things are looking pretty good. All right. There's a little bit of a difference in how the overlap is happening. And that might be with the spans that I chose. So if I go back here, let's do like 1 to 4. Definitely doesn't seem like that's it. Let's go to this. And we'll go to div, custom CSS. Maybe I start at 3. That definitely got wider. Maybe it's my overall grid. So instead of 8, I do 10. Let's see if that works. And then this image, I need it to be 100%. It needs to always go all the way to the edge. And because it's object fit cover, it's never going to warp. Now that's actually kind of a whole different look, but actually kind of a pretty nice look, right? This goes to show you what I'm showing you here kind of by tweaking and adjusting this is because I'm using grid for the overlap. What you notice I'm not having to do is a whole bunch of negative margins and all this other nonsense. I can literally just change how they're spanning. So like this could go to 6 if I wanted it to. It can come down to 4. I'm going to leave it at 5. And then this one can do its own thing. Remember, it's automatically going all the way to the end, regardless of where I started. So really all I have to do is change where that starts. So I'm going to hit save on there. and then we're going to refresh. Okay. So there's a little bit of difference between the two, but it's okay. It's still the effect that we wanted to have happen. What we need to do now is get the modal going, and we need to get this to pop up. So I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to hit add modal. It's going to add it way down here. First thing I always do with these modals, because width 70% is actually, that's not a good default in my opinion. I'm going to make it 90%. And then I'm also going to change the max width to 100. So it's a nice big video, but it's not too big, right? Let's do maybe 110. We'll do 110. And then I'm going to insert a video. Now, because I didn't put any padding or anything like that in there, it's naturally, you're not going to see the edges of the modal. So I am going to go grab my video here, share, copy. I'm going to add that as our video URL. That's perfect. And then what I'm going to do is grab the whole modal by clicking into the gray area here, set the trigger to user clicks element, and then this is just going to be play video right there. And I go up here, I grab my icon, really my whole wrapper probably is best, which is that right there. And I do play video, and I add that class. So now that that class is attached to here, the modal is looking for that class, all good. Let's see if it works. So I'm going to click, bam, we have our lightbox open up. Now, one other thing I'm going to do is I want people to be able to close this. I want there to be a close button, okay? So inside of the modal, I have my video. I am going to add an icon. All right, perfect. Actually, should probably put, because I don't know how the modal is going to behave here. So I'm going to put a div, and that div is going to be 100% and 100%. And then I'm going to slide my video into it. And then I'm going to slide, well, here we go with oxygen. You can't really drag and drop. All right, now that they're in a div, I can make this div layout relative. And then that means my icon can be absolutely positioned, right? Without going crazy off the screen. So I can hit absolute, and there it is. Now, I want the Z index on that to be 2. I want the actual icon to be a cross or a close sign. Where's the close sign? The X. Right there, okay? And then I want it to be white. All right, and then I'm going to go to layout. I'm going to go to the right, 0, and the top is 0. That's going to put it right up in the corner there. And why don't I do rem here? And then what I kind of want to do is just offset it, right? So if I go minus, let's do like -5, 7. Oh, you know what's going on? Okay, hang on. Layout, overflow, visible. All right, I'm losing it. It's something with the default of how these modals are. Layout, visible. There we go. So the layout on the modal is hidden by default. We just make it visible, and now we can see the icon. It's a little big, though. I'm going to go to like 32. And once it's smaller, I need to move it a little bit more. So instead of -7, we can probably get away with -4. Actually, let's try to put it right on the corner. How about that? So let's do -2. And then let's do rem -2 as well. Oh, it's so close. 1.5 -1.5. There it is, like right on the corner of the video. All right, now we need to give that a cursor pointer, right? So that's going to give us the little hand icon when you hover over it. And then I think it's Oxy Close Modal is the class by default that closes the modal window. So let's take a look at how we've got that now. So if I click this, I should get a close. Nice, perfect. Okay. So guys, this is pretty much the end of the tutorial. We've done all of the overlapping. We've done all of the styling. We've got a pulsating icon. We click it. All that's left, guys, especially if you're an Alabama fan and you made it all the way to the end of this tutorial, the only thing that's left is that we watch the video one more time.
Third down, Bryce Young's career. You need 10. Play clock at 4. From the pocket, launching downfield, underthrow.
Oh,
and intercepted. Keely Ringo has an escort down the sideline.
don't want to hear about 1980 or second and 26 or anything like that anymore.
He's going to conquer the Crimson Tide.
Okay, I will continue teaching you everything you want to know about oxygen. I don't want to hear about 1980 or second and 26. All right. Anyway, we can close that. Thank you guys for. Let me go back to camera here. Thank you guys for watching. I'm super excited about 2022. A lot of amazing stuff coming your way. If you have any questions, drop them below. If you like this tutorial, hit the thumbs up. If you're an Alabama fan, hit the thumbs up, man. Don't be salty. Don't hit the thumbs down on me, okay? Drop a comment below. Let me know. Just say hi, whatever. Support the channel. I love you guys. I'll be back very soon. Peace.